Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And neon. I showed these lunar paste, the new neon lunar paste, in a haul video. For those that may have missed it, I went live the other day and did a haul video, the first one in forever. It's been a really long time. I will link to that in the end screen this way at the end of the video for those that may have missed it. It was a fun time, and yeah, pulled them out along with a couple of stencils and a stamp set and die set, all of which everything else was like oldie but goodie favorites of mine, and made a couple cards. So as always, I will have links to all the supplies that I used in the description box below the video. All of my links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I get a little kickback at no extra cost to you. That's what helps pay the bills, keep the channel running, all the things. And then yeah, keep watching and I'll show you guys how I made these cards. So I pulled out the Simon Says Stamp Animal Print Stencil Set. And I'm going to use 2 of the 3 stencils because there's actually 3 different like stencils in that set, but I'm only going to use 2 of them for today's cards. And then I've got all of these new neon lunar pastes, and I pulled out just one of the yellows because there's 2 like different yellows, and I decided just to use one of them. So I'm going to use all but one of the colors. And with pastes, I do recommend press and seal. I've talked about this. I've shown this in other videos. For those that are watching that are international, press and seal is very difficult to get. However, Simon Says Stamp does ship internationally, and they actually carry this specifically because of that, because it's just difficult to get. Those of us in North America, we can get it, at our grocery stores, etc. And press and seal is just awesome because it helps like seal your containers to prevent the air from getting in, because the seals that kind of come with the jars, etc., just aren't as good, and it does like extend the life of your paste. I'm not always the best about using press and seal. Some of my jars have it, some don't, but I thought with these, just if I start from the get-go. So I got all my press and seal ready to go to start off with. So I got that ready, and then I took pieces of black cardstock, and this time I'm just taping them to a hardboard for however, since the grip mats, first like made an appearance. That's what I've been using regardless of like paste, blending, whatever. However, I'm planning on using like many pastes, many colors, doing a lot, making a mess, all the things. So I was like, I'm going to tape these to a hardboard. This will just make my life a little bit easier. And then, so that's what I did. I've got 2 pieces of black cardstock, just used my satin tape, taped it to a hardboard. And then for these stencils, I took them outside and I sprayed the back of them with PIXIE spray. I've shown PIXIE spray in a bunch of my videos. I do not use this very often because most of the time I just find I don't need it, because I can make my stencils stay in place regardless, like with the grip mats, tape, whatever. However, I do really like PIXIE spray for stencils, specifically like these ones, because there are parts of these stencils that aren't really connected to anything else. So there's parts of that zebra print, there's a bunch of parts of this like cheetah print that can stick up, that won't stay down, and PIXIE spray helps with that. And for the record, I don't wash the PIXIE spray off my stencils once it's on there, because I can usually get multiple uses. I wash the other side. Like, I'm going to wash these stencils when I'm done with them. I take them to my sink and I hose them down in my sink and clean off the paste, ink, whatever. But the other side that has the PIXIE spray on it, I just kind of don't touch it, and it's fine. Like, there'll still be some tackiness to it, and that's great. So the next time I go to use it, which I end up using these on the insides of the cards, there was still just a little bit of tackiness. It was perfect. So after I'd sprayed them with the PIXIE spray, I pressed them down to these backgrounds, and then I'm using all of these different pastes. You don't have to start with the yellow. This is just habit. Those that have watched my videos, you guys know when I'm doing anything rainbow, I always start with yellow. My main reason being is it kind of gives me a visual guide, because yellow is kind of technically somewhat in the middle. So then I can kind of determine how much space I have for the other colors. And then with my tools, I always start with yellow, because if I'm using blending tools, I don't want my brushes, etc., picking up any of the other colors, because yellow is the easiest one to get contaminated. And that's my reasoning. So with this, you don't have to, because it doesn't matter, but it's habit. So that's why I started with the yellow. It's just habit. So I'm just applying it with a palette knife and just all the colors, kind of letting them do their thing. You know, they kind of blend, but I'm not really worried about like creating a smooth blend, you know, between the colors. You totally could, but it's not necessary. I just wanted to put all the colors down. So I just apply it with a palette knife, and then I'm trying not to press too hard to, you know, scrape off, because I just want a somewhat smooth coverage, but at the same time, I'm also not worried about it being perfect. They're pastes. Pastes have some texture to them, etc. The biggest thing is just getting everything down so you got all that color. And when I remove the stencils, that's when you see the magic, because of course right now everything looks like a hot mess. So I get all the colors applied, and then put all the press and seal onto them, and then put the lids on, so you know everything's sealed up, good to go. And then I'm going to peel off the stencil, and this is just, oh, it's the magic. Love it. Love it. So get the stencils removed. I took them to my sink, cleaned off all that paste. Same with the palette knife. Cleaned everything off. They're good to go. And then I just set them in my little drying rack to let the stencils dry. I also removed the tape while everything was still wet, just to prevent, because if I let it all dry with the tape in place, I was a little concerned that pulling up the tape where the paste was on top, and like the areas where the paste was on top of the tape, there's a chance that it might peel off, like the cardstock, etc. So I just carefully remove the tape while the paste is still wet. And then again, I set these aside to dry. So once I had these done, I also took a piece of just black cardstock and the sort of pink neon shade, which is Hot Mess. Oh, that is my description. Anyway, I use my finger to apply it. I've shown this in other videos as well. And this time though, I'm applying it a bit thicker because I want a good like coverage. I just need a small section of this because I'm going to die cut this once it is dry. So I just use my finger to apply this onto the black cardstock, and then just built it up to like the level of coverage that I wanted, and kind of kept it as smooth as possible. Again, doesn't need to be perfect. Not too worried about it. So once I've got that applied, I'm going to reseal up the container and then set that aside and let it dry. So I'm going to jump back to those backgrounds. They're somewhat dry at this point, not like fully dry, but dry enough, because I decided I wanted to add splatter. I was going to leave these as is, but you guys know, splatter. Got it. You just gotta. So I'm using my Picket Fence paper splatter liquid watercolor in the liquid white Snowflake. I'll have a link to it in the supplies. I always forget the like specific name of it because it's really long, but it's shimmery and I love it. So I put that on my palette. I splattered that on both these backgrounds with my fan brush, and I have the backgrounds in my splat box to kind of prevent me from getting splatter everywhere. And then I'm also adding black soot distress paint splatter. So that the black is more for on top of the paste, because obviously you're not going to see black on black for the most part. You kind of can see it in real life when you tilt these in the light. You can kind of see the paint like on the background, but not really. It's more just for like extra splattery bits on top of the texture paste. Like, why not? So set those aside to dry, and now I'm working on my sentiments. And for my sentiments, I'm using the CZ Design Wild About You wafer die. Kind of perfect, I thought, with these backgrounds. So I die cut the words from scraps of white cardstock, and then the outline I die cut from the same black cardstock. And then I'm stacking 3 layers of the word die cuts together to give them dimension. And then just using my little craft tacky glue for that. And then you can see me sometimes using my little die pick. I just run that along like the edges wherever the glue has kind of oozed out. If I've applied too much glue, I'll use that. Sometimes I'll use tweezers, just something to like get in there and just like swipe the little blobs of glue away, and then we're good to go. So I got those 3 layers adhered together, and then I'm going to adhere this to the outline. And the dots for the eye, I have them in my little triangle tray, because when I was die cutting, I make a point of setting those in a tray, because otherwise I will lose them. Or basically I'll knock them onto the floor, and I have so many random die cuts because I still need to vacuum in here. Oh, like I'm not going to crawl around the floor looking for little die cuts like that, like ever. So set those all aside, got them adhered in place. Now that piece of cardstock that I had applied the paste to with my finger is dry, and I'm going to die cut it. I want just the inner heart from that sentiment. So I put a piece of wax paper, just same like kitchen grade wax paper. I keep a little bit of this in my, like by my desk here. This helps not only with something like this, it also will help if you have like a die cut that is very, very finely detailed. You know, that if you struggle trying to remove that type of die cut from your wafer dies, put a piece of wax paper between the wafer die and your cardstock. It should help you out. I also use it with things like this because if you've added paste to cardstock and then you go to die cut it, it will die cut. I've done it many times, but a lot of times the cardstock, because it's paste, will like stick in the wafer die and it ends up like tearing trying to remove it. So same concept. If you apply or put a piece of wax paper in between the cardstock and the die cut, it'll just pop right out. So that's what I did. And then I could inlay that little heart that has the paste on it into the die cut phrase, and then we're good to go. So by now my backgrounds are completely dry. So I trimmed these down. I originally meant to keep these completely, like they were going to cover my A2 card front. And this first one I trimmed down just slightly wrong. I was so annoyed, but I was like, that's fine. I'll just trim it a little bit more and the card base can give it a frame. Like it's good. So I ended up trimming these down to just over, it was like 5 3/8 instead of 5 1/4 by 4 1/8 roughly, like just slightly smaller than an A2 card base. So I did all that trimming. And then for the insides of my cards, I originally was going to just use the stencils in like a light gray ink. I've done this in the past, but I couldn't resist. I was like, I want the insides to be rainbow too. Why not? Go big or go home. So I put my card base, which is a top folding white A2 note card, onto my sticky mat. And I put some Post-it tape right where the score line is, just so I don't ink blend or anything past the score line. And then I put the same stencil, and like I said, it's still a tiny bit tacky, so it holds nicely into place. And then I'm using a variety of Simon's Positively Saturated inks. I just picked out colors that kind of mimicked like these are not neon inks, but because it's on the inside of the card, it doesn't matter. And also it's close enough because I'm doing very light blending. So for this, I'm using my Trinity Stamps brushes. I really do love these brushes. They are so soft, so soft. I've shown them in a couple other videos, and I just find that they work really well, especially when I want a light hand, because I've talked about this. I struggle doing like light anything. I want to go in like full force, all the color, all the ink, all the saturation. So I'm very lightly tapping the brushes on my ink pad, and then I tap it off on my work surface, so I don't have much ink on there. And I can't show this in a video, but I am barely touching the cardstock with the brush, like just very light blending, because I just want it to be soft. I don't want it to be super intense because this is the inside of the card, because I want to be able to write over this. And I'll list all the colors, the specific colors I used with the supplies, but I used Peony, Mandarin, Lemonade, Limelicious, Cadet, and Taffy, and blended that over the background. And even that could be a card front too, you know. So fun. So fun. So I do the exact same thing with the other stencil. Same colors, same process. So I just super sped this up in editing. And this time, this is why I start with yellow, so that I don't get other colors in my yellow brush. Is it the end of the world if I did? No. However, I find specifically, again, with yellow, there's just something about the color yellow, like regardless of like the type of ink or anything, that it almost like reactivates other colors. So even if I was to like wipe my brush off, like my yellow brush, if it had other colors in it, the minute I touch it to like a yellow ink, it'll like pick up the orange or the green or whatever. So I have made it like it's my mission in life. I keep my yellow brushes like pristine. Sometimes a little bit of overkill, but it works for me. You know, do what works for you. So after I blended the insides, I'm going to add sentiments as well, and also CZ Design, another oldie but goodie favorite of mine. This is the Clean Line Stacks stamp set. I used this just recently in a video and grabbed another sentiment because I really like this one. It was like, in case nobody's told you today, you are totally amazing. I was like, oh, yes, you need to put that in like tons of cards, you know, how it's just perfect. So I lined up my card bases inside my MISTI, and I stamped those sentiments with just some intense black ink. So that finished off the insides. And then to finish off the card fronts, I'm going to adhere those backgrounds to the card bases with craft tacky glue. Once those are adhered into place, I am then going to adhere the die cut sentiments. And I, of course, had bling that basically matched. I've got this, these Trinity Stamps Electric Parade confetti, you know, and they're basically neon. So I was like, yes, I may not have neon inks in my stash, but I've got neon bling, and that works perfectly. So once I got the sentiments adhered into place, I pulled out the bling and just added some of that to both of these cards, just cause. Really, honestly, kind of any bling, like anything sparkly black would look really good too. White would look great, you know, but I had these, they were too perfect not to use. So once I was happy with the placement, I'm just going to adhere these into place with little dabs of craft tacky glue. Once those are adhered, these cards are complete. So they are neon and shimmery splatter and some neon bling and a little bit of inlay die cutting. And then, of course, like multi-ink blending on the insides, because why not? Why not? So like I mentioned in the intro, I will have a link to all, like a supply list with links to all the supplies I used. At the end of the video, I'll have that the link to the video, the haul video I posted, I'll have that. And I'll also link to the other video I did some time ago using these same stencils. Because yeah, I did a video, was it last year? I forget when, it was quite some time ago, but I'll find it and I'll link to that at the end screen as well. So you guys can check that out if you haven't seen it. So that'll be at the end. All the other info will be in the description box below the video. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.